Hi guys and girls, it's Pete, Mindwiseman's channel, aka Maverick Outdoors, and it's the beginning of June 2012, and in the UK we've got a long bank holiday weekend, which is including Monday and Tuesday. And today's Monday. I did have some plans this weekend to tally up with maybe my son to have done some outdoor stuff, a bit of canoeing, maybe sort of camped overnight somewhere, and especially where he lives in what used to be an old shepherd's cottage and in the middle of farmland, and we were going to do some wild food foraging. And where he lives, he's just finished converting one of his bedrooms into a music studio, so he's got some music associates going over to his place to finalise a few things. So I set off yesterday, Sunday, last minute arrangement, to come out to one of my bug out wild camp locations, and it was absolutely pouring with rain last night. It'd been raining on and off during the day. Lucky enough I paddled here, and it was just very sort of hazy rain. It wasn't too bad. So I slept in my softies and my sleeping bag, sort of 3 to 4 season sleeping bag, real basic, and foam mat. Rolled it up and stuck it in my clothing kit bag, and it did the job. Ground insulation kept me warm last night, so that was good. You can see I'm right in the middle of the undergrowth at this location. It was absolutely pouring with rain last night, so I had to lower the profile of the tarp, so at least I've got sort of seating space, as you can see. But I'll show you around the configuration of that in a little while. But I'm really hungry now, so I'm going to knock up some breakfast. In this container is some of my bug out cache. I've got another container over here which has got bits and pieces in it, like food, dried food, rice. I forgot to bring my tripod stool with me, so going to utilise that to plant myself on. Utilise Improvised is the name of the game. So I've got a nice couple of places. Believe it or not, this is quite solid. A bit numb on the bum, but it does the job. Keeps you sort of more upright and makes it more practical to utilise my breakfast to be made into porridge and granola. So in this bag I've got some ready-made granola, which of course, if you're most really aware, is clusters of oats, nuts, dried fruits, and that roasted in either sort of like a seasoning if you want it savoury, or in this version is a sweet one, so it's got sort of basted in honey really, and then roasted. And then I've got half and half that mixture, and then half of oats. But also added my own mix of a few chopped up cashew nuts and Brazil nuts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knock that up just like you would do porridge. I've got the milk, long life full fat milk, which is obviously good for calories, especially if you're going to be physical during the day. I do carry powdered milk as well, but this stuff, providing you keep it in the shade, any sort of long life milk, even maybe sort of pasteurised straight out of the carton, sort of like normal milk. As long as you keep it in the shade and reasonably cool, it will keep you, even in the sort of most summery of months, it will keep you for at least 2 to 3 days. So that's a half a litre anyway. That's going to do me for what I'm going to use it for now, and also for some tea. Okay, as you can see, I've put the wind guard round surrounding the cooker. A little bit of breeze has been just slightly kicking up over this direction towards my face, and of course as I was cooking the breakfast I could see the vapours as it was heating up sort of blowing sort of behind me, so of course that's going to use more fuel when you've got the breeze blowing up against your stove or any sort of heating cooking element. So I put that there, and then it drew it up, so I knew that it's not only saving fuel but cooking my brekkie more efficiently. So in there I've got pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, cashew nuts, Brazil nuts, almonds, sliced chunky little bits of coconut, oats, honey. Yummy. So while I'm eating that, I'll put the kettle on to make a brew and turn it up a little bit, and that'll be at a boil in under 4 minutes. So now I'm going to eat my breakfast. Bon appetit. Okay, so now it's bank holiday Monday afternoon, and as you can see I'm right in the middle of the undergrowth. So unless you're mad like me to want to pitch up your site and your Basha footprint in somewhere like this, you're not really going to come in here. So it's nice and private, it's all the wildlife. I'll just show you the config of the tarp, similar to what I've done before, but there's something else I had to do to improvise because there wasn't a point to actually hang the apex on. There's a dog chilling. You alright, Carl? Yeah. Okay, where she's just got up from, normally what I do is I'd actually have the length of the tarp, we'll go lying lengthways with it, but of course because of the footprint here being a different area and where I was going to do the attachments to the trees and what have you, I made it sort of going laterally across, and I slept lengthways, obviously where I'd have faced the fire pit, but I'll tell you more about that in a moment. Front two corners bungeed here. I'm bringing it over, and I'll tell you about the tautness that I needed so that the fall of the water when it really rained hard last night actually came off. Originally this was up much higher so I could actually walk about underneath, so I had to actually drop it because the water was actually coming into my footprint on my ground sheet. But here's the other corner, just using that as a resting place for my fleece and the dog's fleece. But you notice I've got it coming around this part of the hawthorn tree, but what I did, I bridged it out with a spacer piece of wood, so it actually brought this out this way so that I could get the right tautness, because if that wasn't there, the bungee cord would have gone closer in and it would have been a bit slack along this edge, so I wanted a sort of tautness. So basically that's why I improvised that block to bring it over, so it meant this side alignment was more taut in each corner and it had a good fall. So the front two corners where I just showed you was sort of, that's where it is at the moment, but it was originally up there, and also just about there I'm finger pointing, which you can see is about another 18 inches higher. So of course the top edge came across and then was pulled up in the middle. So on this far corner here, going right the way down, but that was originally up there, and this rear head end corner was taken down with a slip knot because originally, and it just fastens into a steel peg in the ground there, this head end rear corner was actually nearly this height. So if you look at it in relation to me, you can sort of assess that the height, if I sort of line that across here, was sort of in level with a stick, but now you can see it's actually dropped down. I used half the paddle so that I could have a higher ridge line, so it just gave me a bit more space. So that was once I'd woken up and got the day on the move, I then bridged this up higher so I had a bit more maneuverability space underneath. But originally, last night when it was raining, this back edge was down there, so you can see it was a nice fall line to drain off the top. So I just wedge this back up underneath here, just wedge that in, half a paddle as a basher pole. Now, piece de resistance. I'll show you I actually did the apex. Okay, I'm going to be all formal now. I'm going to use my special seminar lecture pointing stick. And here it is. No, it was a stick that was originally on that corner. But up there, you can see a bit of paracord going all the way across. And it goes and attaches on that bit of branch just up there. So this traverses across along here and fastens, because obviously I didn't have anywhere sort of straight above, and where I'm pointing up there was nothing really to fasten this bungee cord to. So of course now you can see I've put a clip on, paracorded it up. Of course that was doubled when this front edge was higher originally when I got here, before it was raining. That was up much higher, and this bungee cord double looped over. Of course, what I wanted to lower it all so the profile was lower, I was then able to put hook on this cord and then hook it there. So that's the profile and the config of the tarp. But the space on the entrance, I can sit on my cache box, cache of food and bits and pieces, and you can see I've got the height up above, comfortable to sit, but because I've raised this central point to create a ridge here, it gives me sort of easy working space if I've got to get to any of my kit, rather than brushing my head on this if it was actually coming down at a steeper angle, which would have been to about there. So it's just a day living position of the tarp. A bit of bird life twittering in the background there. I'm a guest of their territory, so they must be telling me to get lost. No. Oh, he's saying, yeah, he's saying, get out of my area, you're in my territory. I'm very sorry, I'll be here for a little while. You do have priority. Nature and wildlife always have priority. Anyway, that's my little bit of philosophy over with. Since about the latter part of last year, 2011, I've been allocating areas where I've buried food, like cache of food and essential items, on different locations that I might, especially for emergency bug out scenarios. SHTF, WROL, you know, all the old stuff everyone goes on about, but it's just convenient because I didn't have to bring as much food with me on this journey, because I knew there's going to be stuff here. But what I've got just here is a small little shovel that I leave near this location, and I've just used it as a hanging device since last night to dry off my army issue UPVC type trousers, waterproofs, and then my waterproof breathable jacket, and then my hat, but then just drying that off since last night because they were wet. But of course the shovel's really handy because it dug my fire pit, which has already been dug before, but because I decided this time, it's the first time on this particular fire pit that it's been raining, so obviously I put this tarp up just to protect it. Usual thing, bungee cord there, all the way across, bungee cord up to that branch, and then down to this rear corner, 2 extendable Basha poles, one here, one over there, and then just bungee corded down, as you can see, bungee corded down here, so I've got a slope. So face on from the front edge of my Basha shelter, personal shelter, to the left, got the prepped wood, and then to the right is the fire pit, which, as I say, has been dug before, but I rearranged it a little bit so it was in situ to the shelter, so that if I'm underneath it, you know, I don't get wet, and plus as well to the side, on this side, the fuel doesn't get wet. By the time I got here last night, it was just starting to get dark, and by the time I'd actually pitched up the tarp and sorted everything out, you know, it was dark. It was about 9:30, 9:45, so just getting dusky, and all the foliage around here, it all had surface water on it because of the rain. It wasn't soaked right the way through. I was going to start a fire, but by that time I was getting really hungry, so I thought it was going to take ages to have got the fire going, so I just cooked something up on the one-man stove. Had all this wood, it was literally just a pile all over here. So I sorted it out. That stuff is sort of reasonably damp. I could do some feather sticks, but you know, I've got loads of dry kindling. But I went for a walk about 1/4 of a mile from where I am, and I found this drier stuff, which is just going to blast up straight away, and all this stuff here. While this is going, there's a little bit of reasonably dry stuff there. This I'll just place around the edge. As you can see, it's all rotten, but it's all very sort of fibrous and dusty, so that'll ignite really easily. So once I've got the fire going later on with kindling and first and second stage type of wood, then while that's actually kicking up a heat, I'll put some of the stuff that's not quite fully dry around the edge. It'll dry it out, and then I'll have a fire going, because I've got some Chinese chicken thighs, which I wanted to cook up last night, and I checked them earlier on and they're still cool because I put them in a stainless steel mess tin. They were frozen when I left my house. Plus I've got 3 nice large size baking potatoes, 2 for me and 1 for that little lazy dog who's lying down over there. Oh, open her eyes now because I said dog. Are you a dog? Yeah, you're a dog. Yeah, you're a little doggy. Bit better today. Just being a bit lazy though, that's all she's doing. So for dinner tonight, it's coming up to, what is it now? It's coming up to about 10 to 6 in the evening. So I've got a good 3.5 hours light, and I'm just hoping the weather's going to hold off. It's been prospected to be a reasonable nice day tomorrow, Tuesday, and today was supposed to be identical to yesterday, but it hasn't been. It's been much clearer sort of during mid-afternoon onwards up to now. So hopefully it's going to be a mild evening. I reckon it'll be a bit fresher than last night. It was quite mild last night, and I reckon with the cloud cover just clearing a little bit more in comparison to yesterday, I think there'll be a little bit more of a chill factor. But it's going to be nice and fresh as long as it stays dry. It's just going to be nice, and if I want to go for a late night walk I can without getting soaking wet like I did last night. Okay, what I was saying a little bit earlier about these 2 containers here, this one that I've been using as a seat, and these 2 have got food and necessities in there. And this one, there's the lid. It's an old bread bin actually, and it was all sealed up with tape and buried. But I'll feature more about the cache storage and you know, the ideas behind burying it. It's an ongoing project. So I'm going to get sort of more modern containers, bigger ones, so I can. It's just a project in progress really. But I'll feature some of these items and the basis behind it in another separate video. But I'll just quickly show you what was in this box. Tarp, food, bits and pieces, which I can use some of the items if need be, you know, since I've got here, and also until I leave tomorrow. The beauty of having a canoe is that you can sort of pack it up with whatever stuff you want, especially if you're sort of paddling solo. So when it comes down to water, I do have water filtration devices that you'd have seen in previous videos. But if I'm on my own, I'll sort of bring a few drinking bottles, about 3 to 4 litres. As an example, sort of a couple of these. Plus I've got the rectangular 2-litre one. But I brought with me today a different 10-litre container. So basically if I've got the space and it's easy to carry, I'll bring the water with me. But I've always got a backup device. I've got my Milbank bag and my charcoal antiviral filtration bag as well. But you can see here, this is what I brought. Normally, if you'd have seen previous videos, this originally was a water container with a tap just on the top. But it's seen better days and it actually split. So if you imagine that this was the original bag, the handle split. So what I did, I cut off all this area here because this bottle wasn't as strong as what this one was originally. And I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll cut this off, insert that inside, stick it over some tape, and I can easily carry it. So it's got double protection. Plus, I can take the water container out and actually use this as a washing bowl, just anything that needs to carry any fluid in it, because all this is still undamaged. That's all nice and secure. So I could pour water inside here, and this can also have 2 uses. So it protects this bottle, plus as well I can use it as a vessel container for fluids, washing up, washing your person, whatever you fancy. Okay, double loaded seat now. Each container, 1 for each separate buttock cheek, very comfortable. Okay, and then as I was saying with the, actually this is really comfortable. Ooh, yes, I have to do this more often. Let's say with the container that the water bottle's in, with the edge in, I would say it doesn't collapse, because once there's fluid in it, it will actually hold its own shape. What I do, I just roll that over and then just thread some of this wire around it, which is like basic plastic coated garden wire for fencing, for tying up your crops. I'd use it also for trapping, but I've always got a roll of this with me, and if I needed to I could just structure it going round so it keeps this sturdy, so even before the fluid was in it, it would be upright and not collapsing like a tumbler. If my son had been with me for the weekend, then we'd have only taken as much water as we would have needed to save on the weight, and then we'd have procured the water from the river, sort of filtered it, boiled it up, and then used it for cooking and washing and what have you. But I would have brought sort of maybe about sort of 3 or 4, about 3 litres each in a separate bottle, so at least we've got direct water to get us going as soon as we pitch up camp. But here, I'll just show you a bit of vegetation. This is comfrey. The small leaves you can sort of add to salads. The bigger leaves you can boil up like spinach. So what I'm going to be doing in the near future, before this dies off, this is not quite at its peak yet, all this wild foraging food. I'd say it's got about another sort of good couple of months to take us through to summer. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make up a concoction of the comfrey leaves. You can tell they've got a sort of a slightly hairy undersurface that's matte, and it looks as if it's been sort of imprinted on the top leaf, and that's how you can sort of tell the basic comfrey. But what I will do is I'm going to do a 3 or 4 leaf vegetable dish, which would be stinging nettle heads, comfrey leaves and cleavers, which is just a little bit stalky, but you'd start to cook this. You start to cook this first of all, the cleavers, or sticky weed as it's slangily known, and then about halfway through then add the nettles and the comfrey leaves. But then also got hawthorn leaves here, little small buds that are edible, and then also up here is an oak tree. So of course could forage the acorns from it, but obviously you need to filter them, sort of boil them up and get rid of the tannin and any of the ingredients that can sometimes maybe upset your stomach. If you know the process, you can also make acorn coffee. Obviously there's no acorns on here yet, but there is a technique that was used. But during the Second World War in the United Kingdom, because everything was on rations, people had to sort of basically, you know, forage what I've been talking about now, sort of going to the wild, whatever food that they could forage, and also grow their own stuff. But because things like tea and coffee, and which in those days were seen as luxuries, were in very, very short supply, what people used to do, they used to go out, pick acorns, put them through a roasting process, bleeding off the tannin by maybe boiling them over and making a coffee from them. There is a sort of a basic technique, sort of bushcrafting, outdoorsy procuring of acorns. The basic one, some people say sort of mash them up and then roast them and then mash them up again because they can get a bit more brittle, and then roast them a second or third time. But what I have, it's not labour intensive, but there's sort of a bit involved, sort of faffing around, is sort of breaking them up, sort of crushing them a little bit, and then boiling them for about 5 minutes, draining off the water, then roasting them. And then really crunching them up smaller, then roasting them again. As they roast, keep sort of breaking them up into small granules, and then just filter them off as you would normal coffee. I've tried that. It's I think if I'd have roasted them or maybe boiled them a bit longer, it wouldn't have been as bitter, but it's still a sort of coffee flavour, and I didn't get gut rot, so that was all right. Okay, I'm going to get the fire going in a moment to cook my dinner of the chicken and baked potatoes, but I'll just show you a little improvisation I've done, because the weather's got much clearer, and you can tell in the sort of the feel in the air that I'll be surprised if it's going to rain in the next hour. And there's a little bit of sunlight coming over this way, so what I did, just to give these wet clothes, they'd sort of near enough dried out, but give them a bit of an airing. You can see what I've done. Just got a bit of stick there, going from one shoulder to the other. Just hang it up there as a hanger, so that's my wardrobe. And then the same with a pair of trousers, through the holes in the pocket. And then just hanging it up there, and of course my hat just hanging there, so actually they're getting a bit of an airing. If I go for a walkabout tonight in the dark and it is raining, I very much doubt if it does, but if it is, then I've got my jacket and trousers to put on that are actually aired out and not putting any slight dampness that might have been left in them, because they were still feeling a little bit damp, because obviously the atmosphere has been damp besides them getting wet in the rain. So yeah, pleased with that. Wardrobe. So I don't want them to be there when I've got the fire going, because if the smoke blows over, they're obviously going to sort of smell of smoke, and it's not as if I'm going to be out for ages. So they'll take about another sort of, I reckon, about another half hour of airing, and then I can just sort of fold them up, pack them away, out the way, and I'm going to get this fire going. already. Okay guys, the sky's really starting to clear. It looks like it's going to be a clear evening tonight, so there might be less chance of there being any rain. So what I've done, you can see I've disconnected from that corner and the other corner, these two corners, folded it in half. Then as you can see, I'm just going to lower that down so the stuff is still in situ, and then just bring this over just to here. So our Basha poles are just at an angle here, just there. So it just feels nice for it to be sort of open, and if it does rain, then obviously I can just fix all that back up again quite easily, because everything is sort of half in situ. Right, so it's coming up to just gone 8 o'clock, so I've got about a good hour and a half of daylight until it starts to get dusky. So I'm just going to knock up the fire now and hopefully get back to you guys when I'm cooking my Chinese chicken and jacket potatoes. Bring it on. Okay, this wood here I knew was the sort of dampest. I've been picking bits out, but you can see got the fire going. And there's a good draw, you can tell by the smoke, it's going straight up. But what I've had to do is some of the stuff that says on the top half that's sort of threaded, it was, you know, it wasn't going to take straight away, so I've sort of laid it up so the heat underneath would start to dry it out. And lo and behold, it's now started to take. So all this stuff here was just a little bit damp. If I'd have actually used that as the first stage would, first or second stage straight away, it wouldn't have actually taken. So I'm going to continue. Oh, you can see now it's really, right, that wood's taken now, you can see. So what I'm going to do is get some of that more damper stuff over there and then lay it up again as that sort of settles. It will obviously crumble down into the charcoals, into the coals, and get it going ready to cook some food. Okay, it's really taken quite well, and if you can see there, I've just done a really crude reflector. So rather than having the wood down there, I thought, oh, what I'll do is, while this is kicking up, just really crude, just a couple of uprights, and just laid it sort of a mesh, horizontal then vertical, and there's enough heat coming over here. So by the time I've used up some of that, little bit of that, this will be ready to take, just like that slightly damp stuff that was on the higher point that was drying out. So this will be just as dry, and I can feel it now. It's getting just enough warmth. So within the next half hour, yeah, I would say about the next half hour, that's going to be okay to do a wigwam fire. Then I can start to lay them horizontally, and then the coals will be more appropriate to stick under my grid for the chicken. And then of course in the embers and the coals I'll put the jacket potatoes. So it's coming on nicely, and we've still got plenty of daylight. It's just come up to 9 o'clock. So yeah, it's a nice Monday bank holiday evening. A few aircraft flying over, but you should be able to hear this evening chorus of birds. From over there, and somewhere over there. Oh, there's one over there. Okay guys and girls, as you can see, there's the grill that I'm going to put my chicken on. But I actually curved it in transit. It's new, I've used a few, but this is a new one. But you can see I curved it so it could take the curved shape of this, don't know if you can see it and now in the dusky light, but in the dry bag, my camo dry bag, the 100 litre. So if you can imagine, I sort of wedged it sort of down the outside, and then on the inside where I'm pointing my finger was all my kit, my clothing, my sleep kit and what have you, and clothing. And what I'm going to do now, you can see it's getting quite coaly now, which is good. I'm going to flatten this out, straighten it, and then lay it across here. I've got to put a bit of earth in this corner so it's narrow, so then that can bridge it. But I need to narrow this by about a third, and then this can rest across, and I can put my chicken on it. Chicken. I'll keep that in. I'm not going to do an outtake. So it's really turned into a nice evening. I don't know if you can see, I'll let you have a look. I'll share it with you. But you can sort of see it's quite blue. Very faint clouds. And fingers crossed it's going to stay like this for the rest of the night, which is going to be absolutely brilliant in contrast. You know, I don't mind any weathers, all terrains, all weathers, but it's just nice considering, you know, I went for a walk last night and went for a walkabout in the dark, and it was raining and it was soaking wet. All part of it. But of course tonight it's just going to feel nice, just to be in a nice, fresh but dry evening and feel like it's summer, and tomorrow I should be waking up to a reasonably sunny day. So watch this space, but hopefully if there's any light, if not I'll do it in stills, pictures of the chicken and the jacket potatoes. There we got 3 jacket potatoes. There's one right in the middle there, you can see, just about. All wrapped up in foil, nearly about 2/3 of the way through cooking. And then the Chinese chicken, cooking on this little recessed area. All ready to scoff in about 15 minutes time. Okay, I'm just laying underneath the tarp now, and there's Karsh getting nice and warm from the fire, and in a little while I'm going to make a brew. So it's coming up to midnight now. I was going to try and film right over there is an orange full moon. It's really big. If I get a chance I might do it and you might be able to see it, but if not I'll catch you in the morning. It's now Tuesday morning. Kept the fire going until about 1:30 in the morning last night. There was no rain, it was a nice mild fresh evening, not too cold. Woke up early. Yeah, I got that, cheers. Woke up this morning to the sun. It was quite sunny, just a little bit of cloud, but now it's come a little bit overcast, but no rain so far, so that's good. So I'm going to get some breakfast on the go. What I'm going to do is get a tin of food out of my cash box, stored buried box, and knock up some noodles and make some breakfast, so and get the day on the go. Yes, dog. Get the day on the go, shall we? Yeah? Okay, just a quick bullet point. You can see I've just risen the profile of the tarp, so I'm at sort of head height. So basically I can actually stand up underneath it, so it's a little bit higher, so gives a bit more practical working space. The rain has just started, just a little bit light shower, hopefully that's all it will be. So I'm going to make something to eat now. Okay guys and girls, that's me done for the weekend. It's now Tuesday, it's 5 PM, early evening, so I'm going to make my way back. It started to rain, as you can see I've got my waterproofs on, so I just checked out also the stream, the flow, because obviously I'm going to be going upstream now, back to where I put in, so I was a little bit concerned that maybe the water table might have risen. A couple of weeks ago when I was out here I did the little brief video where I did canoe fitness and chit chat, and just saying about the objectives of paddling downstream and then paddling back upstream. Since then the water level on the Thames has dropped back to normal as it was. It had risen by nearly 2 foot sort of 2 to 3 weeks ago. Now it's gone back to normal, but there's a little bit of a flow. It's not too bad, so it shouldn't be too much of an effort considering I've got the old mutt, got Karsh, and obviously a bit more kit than when I did the little fitness training a few weeks back. So anyway, I'm going to say my farewells. Be out there, be safe as always, famous last words, and I'll catch up with you in another video soon. Cheers, take care.